Okay, alright. So what we're going to do today is problems involving general triangles. So we are going to apply everything that we have learned so far to solve some application type of questions. So here's one question here. I want to show you how to do it. It's a really interesting question. So we have, this is a 3D diagram by the way. So we have a building. The height of this building is h meters. We have no idea what's the height equals to. We've got two people here, A and B. They're standing 300 meters apart. From point A, the angle of elevation is 32 degrees to the top of the building. From point B, you have no idea about the angle of elevation, so that's okay. And the angle between the these two persons here is 78 degrees. And that angle here is 59. Alright, so first question asks you to show that AD, so this is D, AD is equal to 300 sine 43 over sine 78. And that's what I asked you to show, what AD equals to. Now, how would you work out this question here? First of all, you need to look at the answer first, all right? And try to get some hint from the answers. You've got 300, so something that you probably can use, 300. And 78, yes, that's 78, which is good. I've got that angle here. 43, where's 43? There's no 43 degrees. So this is something that you really need to think about. How do we get the 43 degrees from the questions there? Now, if we just pay attention to the triangles, this triangle here, right? That's the ground, okay? And we'll pay attention to that triangle. If we try to find out what is the third angle, that would be 180 degrees minus 78 degrees minus 59 degrees. And let's see whether this is equal to 43 or not. So I'm pretty sure that's equal to 43 degrees because you're going to use sine rule to work out the answer. Yes, it is 43 degrees. All right, so this is where you get 43 degrees. So that angle here is 43 degrees. Now, once you have 43 degrees, you should be able to work out the answer quite easily now. All right, if you look at that, you've got sine here and sine there. So clearly, we are going to use the sine rule to do the question, right? So, okay, let's start. In this bottom triangle here, all right, so in triangle ABD, we're going to use the sine rule. We're going to find what's AD, right? So the angle that's opposite to AD is 43 degrees. So we can write AD over sine 43 degrees is equal to, now we're going to use 78 because that's what's in the answer, and we are going to use that 300. So that be 300 over sine 78 degrees. All right, simply using the sine rule, we can get an expression like this. All right, so once we get to that point, now all we have to do is rearrange. I can show you an easier way to do it. I know you can use the cross multiplication and you can times everything together and then you do division, right? But I can show you an easier way to do this question here, right? So just pretend that you have one entire term here, all right? All you need to do is simply times this one across. Just times over. So you get AD is equal to 300 over sine 78 multiplied by sine 43. Just times everything over. Now, you can do cross multiplication if you want. Otherwise, that's something a bit easier for you to do. All right, so that gives you 300 sine 43 degrees over sine 78 degrees, and which is the answer here. So you got the answer for the first question. All right, so we're just using the triangles on the base triangle here, and we got the answer. Now the question asks us to find the height of the building, the height, which is h. Now you need to pay attention, where is h? H is in the triangles here, all right? So that's h, that's the height. They ask us to find the height. Now we have the distance AD, which is that answer here. All right, so that means, all right, we're going to use the triangles on the left, right, to work out the height, because we also know the angle 32 degrees. All right, so the triangles on the left is actually a right angle triangle. Although this angle doesn't look like in a right angle here, but because it's 3D diagram, so you have to draw an angle like this, and that is a right angle, and the angle of elevation is 32 degrees. Now, if you find this is really confusing and you just can't see this 3D diagram, but what I suggest you to do then is to redraw the diagram. So redraw this triangle and make sure that is a right angle triangle, and then relabel everything, right? So that's point A, that's D, here's a right angle, and that's C, and that's H. And we know what's AD. AD is equal to that numbers there, all right? You don't need to use a calculator to work out the answer because we can do it at the end. The question asks us to find the height. We do know the angle here is 32 degrees. So we can use, I guess we can use the so-called tower to work out the answer, right? So we have the opposite, according to this angle, we've got opposite sides, and we've got adjacent AD. So let's work out the answer. All right, so we use tangent 32 degrees is equal to H over AD. Now remember, we know it's AD, I just don't want to work out the answer yet. Now we need to rearrange this, and we're going to get H is equal to AD multiplied by tangent 32 degrees. And remember, we know what AD equals to, so we can do a final substitution, and we'll use our calculator to work out the final answer. All right, so the final answer is going to be 130.70 meters. This is to 2 decimal places, and that is the height of this building here based on all the information. All right, so that's how you do this question here. Not a hard question, but does require you to understand about this is a 3D diagram, that is a right angle here, and you need to carefully look at the answers and to be able to work out the final answer there. All right, really good question. Now I'd like to try another one. All right, very, very similar to this question here, but I'd like to try another one using possibly using cosine rule this time. Okay, so here's the question. Again, we've got a top, like a building here, and let's call this building is H, and you don't know what H equals to. Two people are standing, away from each other. Point A, the angle of elevation, remember this is 90 degrees. Point A, the angle of elevation is 30 degrees. And then a second person is standing somewhere, away from point A, and then that point B, okay, the angle of elevation is 40 degrees. Okay, and then the angle between these two persons, all right, is 120 degrees. 120 degrees. All right, and then we know the distance between A and B is equal to 500 meters. Now the question asks you to work out what is the height, okay? What is the height of the building? All right, so let's call this as C here, and that's D. The question asks you to find the height. All right, so how would you do this question here? As you can see, this question is different to the previous one because the question is not scaffolded. All right, so they don't give you a hint. There is no part 1 and part 2 for the question here. So how do we do it? What is the information we know? We have AB equal to 500. We've got 120 here. We've got angle elevation, which is 30 and 40. And the question here, CD is missing. But your idea, all right, is to try to work out the distance here in terms of H and also the distance there in terms of H. If you can work out these two distances, all right, AD and BD in terms of a H, so change that H or rewrite this H into this distance here, and if we can change the H to that distance, and then we can use the bottom triangle, these bottom triangles here, and apply the cosine rule, then you should be able to work out the answer quite easily, okay? That's what you're going to do. So think about how do I represent this side using H, how do I represent that side using H. All right, so let's start with the left-hand side. We've got a right angle triangle, so in triangle ACD, It's a right angle triangle, so if I ask, let's just redraw the diagram here. So that's 30 degrees. Here's D, that's A, C, H. Now I want to write this H to the distance here into D, AD. I'm going to use tangent, right? So tangent 30 degrees is equal to H over AD. H over AD. All right, so that gives you, I want to write what's AD. So AD is equal to H over tangent 30 degrees. All right, that's what a H is equal, AD is equal to, which is tangent 30 degrees, H over tangent 30 degrees. All right, so we've got AD. Now you are going to do exactly the same thing for BD. All right, so in triangle BCD, so we've got another triangle, but this time is on the right hand side. That's 40 degrees. Here's B, D, C. Here's H. Again, I want to write BD in terms of H. So we're going to do the same thing. Tangent 40 degrees, all right, is equal to H over BD. So BD is equal to H over tangent 40 degrees. Now we've got AD and BD. All right. So let me just write AD and BD here. So AD is equal to H over tangent 30. BD is equal to H over tangent 40. All right, just by knowing AD and BD, it's not enough for us to solve for H, right? So now what we need to do, all right, we are going to use the triangle that's on the ground, right? This triangle here. Combine the result that we have AD and BD, and then we're going to use the cosine rule to work out, to form an equation, and then so therefore we can work out what's the value of H. All right, so let's start with that. Okay, so in triangle, let's try to do this in a different color. All right, so now in triangle ABD, which is this triangle here. All right, this triangle here. We know that angle here is 120. We know the opposite side is 500. And we know it's AD. All right, AD is the values there, which is H over tangent 30 degrees, right? So that's what AD is. And we know it's BD, and BD is H over tangent 40. Now from here, we can use cosine rule. All right, we can form a cosine rule, and we should be able to form an equation, and we should be able to solve this. All right, let's start with this. Okay, so 500 square, that's a C square, is equal to A square plus B square, all right? So H over tangent 30 square plus H over tangent 40 square minus 2 times by A and B, H over tangent 30, H over tangent 40. And then cosine the angle here, which is 120. Now, it's a really hard question here just because you have to solve this equation now. All right, it's not that easy to solve the equation like this. All right, so what you need to do is rearrange, all right? We need to rearrange this equation. So 500 squared is equal to, let's expand that part, and in the meantime, factorize, okay? So we're going to expand, it'll be H squared tangent square 30, H squared tangent square 40, minus 2H squared over tangent 30, tangent 40. And then multiply by cosine 120 degrees. All right, okay. How about I'm just going to rewrite this one up here so you guys can see it, all right? Easily. So I'm just going to do it here. I guess I need a bit a bigger board. All right. What do we do? I want to solve for H. They're all H's. So how about we factorize? All right, we'll factorize what's on the right-hand side. So that gives us 500 squared is equal to, let's take the H square out, all right? Factorize the H square outside and put a big bracket. The first term is 1 over tangent square 30. Next is 1 over tangent square 40. All right? then minus. Alright, then what you need to do is calculate what's a cosine 120, because that looks like a special angle to me. Cosine 120 degrees is minus 1 over 2, minus half. So that tells you that minus half and 2, that cancels out. Great. And then this minus will change the minus here, becomes a plus. So that will be a plus here. This is all about algebra, all right? It does take a bit of time to do it. Now that h square, remember I take out the h square. So I have 1 over tangent 30, tangent 40. So also this looks like a really hard question, but now all we have to do is use our calculator, work out what's inside these brackets. All right, so h square is equal to 500 square over what's inside this bracket. All right, so I'm just going to use the calculator to work out the value here. All right, and then once you've got the value, you should be able to work out h square, and then therefore you can work out what's h. All right, so let's just do that. All right, so tangent 30, and I'm going to square it. One over tangent 40 and square. It does take a long time to do it. Tangent 30, tangent 40. Alright, if my calculation is correct, then the denominator is equal to 6.4844. I'm going to store that in a calculator, and I'm going to calculate what's h squared now. Alright. So 500 squared divided by this is 38553.7448. So h is equal to, remember, you need to square root it. That is 196.35 meters. Looks correct. All right, the number makes sense. That's 500, and you go. The height of the building is 196. Looks pretty okay. All right, so that's the way to do it. Not an easy question, especially even after you finish writing the equation, you need to know how to solve this equation here. All right, but if you do it slowly, step by steps, you should be able to work out the answer. And that's how you do the question involving general triangles. All right, now in general, like students sometimes ask me, like, how do we know whether we're going to use sine rule or cosine rule or the area formula for a triangle? How do we really know in which case we're going to use what? I'm just going to give you a little summary. Usually I don't use this kind of summary. I just, by trying different questions, you probably can tell what is the method you're going to use, right? But if you do want a summary, this is what you need to write it down. All right, so whenever you see a triangle that give you the condition like AAS, if they give you two angles and one side, and this is where you're going to use sine rule. All right, AAS, to find an another side. If they give you AAS, so they give you two angles, and then one of the side is given, you're going to use sine rule. If the question gives you SAS, the side, angle, side style, okay, so the angle is between the two sides, then definitely it's cosine rule, or it can be the area formula. All right, it's pretty easy if we know we're going to use the area formula because they'll tell you to find the area of the triangle. So that's pretty easy. Now, if the question gives you SSS, all three sides are given, all right? All three sides are given, then it's definitely cosine rule. You can't use a sine rule to find anything with all three sides are given because you don't have an angle, right? So you're going to use cosine rule to find the angles. Now, the last one is if the question gives you ASS, this is a special case. All right, if the question gives you ASS, all right, angle, side, sides, then it is going to be sine rule. But you are going to get possible two answers or two angles. Now you can check my previous videos in the sine rule topic to work out why we can have possible two answers. So that's in general case, right? When you have two angles on the sides, you're possibly going to use a sine rule. If you have SAS, it's cosine rule or area formula. If you are given all three sides, definitely it's cosine rule. And if you're given one angle, two sides, you're going to use sine rule with possible two angles. So this is a little summary. To be honest, I don't remember like this, all right? I just know how to do the question by doing lots of different questions, and you will know, all right? Automatically, you know what is the method you're going to use. But if you want to use this one as a summary to remember, yes, you can. All right, that's it for this lesson. I'll see you guys next time.